In the hills of the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica, a man named Jose Bonifacio Villegas Fonseca, everyone calls him Pachito, wakes up before dawn and saddles his horse. He has done this every morning for longer than most people have been alive. Pachito is 104. His hands are steady. His posture is straight. His blood sugar, at 104 years old, is stable. No insulin, no metformin, no glucose monitor strapped to his arm. Now think about this. In the United States, a 58-year-old man with type 2 diabetes spends an average of $22,500 a year managing his condition. He takes metformin twice a day. He checks his blood sugar 4 times a day. And his HbA1c, the number that tracks 3-month average blood sugar, is still not controlled. Pachito spends about $3 a week on beans. A 2013 study published in the Vienna Yearbook of Population Research followed 16,300 elderly Costa Ricans over 2 decades. The researchers found that a 60-year-old Nicoyan male is 7 times more likely to reach 100 than a 60-year-old Japanese male. 7 times. Nicoyans have a 20% lower heart disease rate and a 23% lower cancer death rate than the rest of their own country. And when researchers measured their telomeres, the protective caps on DNA that shorten as we age, the Nicoyan elders had significantly longer ones than the general population. Their cells were aging slower, not because of medicine, because of what was on their plate every single morning. By the end of this video, I'll tell you about the one daily practice these centenarians follow that no endocrinologist mentions when they talk about blood sugar. It's not a food. It's not a supplement. And the researchers who found it almost didn't record it because it seemed too ordinary to matter. You've probably heard the standard advice for managing blood sugar. Cut the carbs, reduce the rice, eliminate the bread. That logic sounds reasonable. The Nicoyans break it completely. They eat carbohydrates at every single meal. Rice, corn tortillas, and black beans, every day, multiple times a day. Their diet is built on carbohydrates. And their rates of diabetes are a fraction of ours. Over 30 million Americans currently have diabetes. More than 7 million require daily insulin to survive. The United States spends $307 billion a year on direct diabetes care. And for over 14% of Americans who use insulin, the cost eats at least 40% of their income after basic living expenses. That's not a healthcare system managing a disease. That's a population spending itself into debt over a metabolic condition that a 104-year-old man on a horse has never experienced. So what are the Nicoyans doing that we're not? It starts with the bean, specifically the black bean, frijoles negros. Pachito eats them every day. So does nearly every elder on the Nicoya Peninsula. Not as a side dish, not twice a week. Black beans are the center of the plate, the anchor of every meal, served alongside rice as gallo pinto and paired with nixtamalized corn tortillas. This combination, beans, rice, corn, is the Mesoamerican triad, and it has sustained this population for centuries. Here's what makes the black bean different from almost any other staple food. Its glycemic index is around 30. White bread sits at 75. A bowl of white rice is in the mid-60s. The black bean enters the bloodstream slowly. It doesn't spike glucose. It buffers it. But the glycemic index is only the beginning. Black beans are dense in resistant starch, a type of carbohydrate your small intestine cannot digest. It passes through to your colon, where it ferments and feeds your gut bacteria. That fermentation produces short-chain fatty acids that directly improve how your cells respond to insulin. A 2021 study by the USDA Agricultural Research Service found that the equivalent of half a cup of cooked black beans daily reduced insulin resistance by 87% and improved gut bacteria balance by 64% in obese subjects. 87% from beans. And the dark pigment in the coat, the anthocyanins. These are powerful antioxidants that don't just reduce inflammation. They upregulate something called GLUT4 gene expression. That's the mechanism your cells use to pull glucose out of the bloodstream and into the cells where it's needed. A 2020 study in the journal Molecules confirmed that anthocyanins counteract the metabolic damage of high blood sugar by modulating both enzyme activity and gut bacteria composition. The black bean isn't just low glycemic. It's actively repairing the system that processes glucose. But here's the part that most people get wrong. They hear this, and they add beans to their diet once or twice a week. Maybe a side of black beans on Taco Tuesday. That's not what the Nicoyans do. The mechanism requires daily signaling. Occasional beans do not activate the metabolic pathway consistently enough to change anything. The Nicoyans eat beans every day because that's what was always on the table. The consistency is the practice. Take a moment right now and think about the last 3 days. Did a single legume appear on your plate? For the vast majority of Americans, the answer is no. For the Centenarians of Nicoya, the answer hasn't changed in 80 years. Now, here's where this gets deeper. Black beans alone explain maybe 40% of what's happening in Nicoya. Because the Nicoyans don't eat beans in isolation. They eat them in a specific combination that amplifies the metabolic effect. And this is where most Western attempts to copy Blue Zone diets fall apart. The Nicoyan pairing is black beans with rice and nixtamalized corn tortillas. The nixtamalization process, soaking corn in lime water, is ancient. It unlocks niacin, improves the amino acid profile, and when combined with beans, creates a complete plant protein. But the metabolic effect is what matters here. The combination creates a sustained-release glucose buffer. The resistant starch from the beans slows digestion. The whole grain from the tortilla extends the absorption window. And when you add tropical fruit, papaya, mango, the fruits that grow everywhere on the Nicoya Peninsula, the vitamin C enhances iron absorption from the beans, and the polyphenol further reduce inflammatory markers. A 2025 study presented by the American Society for Nutrition followed 72 pre-diabetic adults who consumed 1 cup of beans daily for 12 weeks. The result was significant reductions in interleukin-6, a key marker of systemic inflammation, along with improved cholesterol profiles. 12 weeks. 1 cup a day. But the effect was strongest when beans were consumed as part of a complete meal pattern, not in isolation. The Nicoyans figured this out centuries ago without a clinical trial. Beans, grain, fruit. 1 plate. The synergy happens when the compounds interact during digestion, not when they're separated across different meals and different days. The contrast is hard to ignore. Americans spend $307 billion a year treating diabetes with pharmaceuticals. We strap continuous glucose monitors to our arms at $150 a month. We buy low-carb processed foods that cost 3 to 5 times more than their regular versions. Nicoyans eat a cup of black beans, a scoop of rice, and a corn tortilla. The weekly grocery cost is $3 to $5. They had a pharmacy in their kitchen. We have a pharmacy on every corner. The difference in outcome is not subtle. Now, the practice I promised you. The one thing that Nicoya centenarians do every single day that no endocrinologist mentions when they talk about blood sugar. When the research team led by Dr. Luis Rosero Bixby was compiling the data from their 20-year study, one of the variables they kept encountering didn't fit neatly into a nutritional category. It wasn't a food. It wasn't exercise. It wasn't a supplement or a medication. It was a phrase that kept coming up in interviews with the oldest Nicoyans. Plan de vida, reason to live. In Nicoya, elders don't retire. Pachito didn't stop riding his horse at 65. He didn't stop at 75. He didn't stop at 100. The elders chop wood. They make tortillas for their grandchildren. They tend gardens that feed their families. They are not preserved. They are necessary. There is a difference, and the biology responds to it. Living with deep, daily purpose acts as a buffer against chronic stress. Lower stress means lower cortisol. Lower cortisol means lower systemic inflammation. And lower inflammation means slower erosion of the telomeres that protect your DNA. Dr. Rosero Bixby's study specifically measured this. Nicoyan elders had significantly longer telomere lengths and more favorable stress hormone levels than the general population. They weren't just living longer. Their cells were aging slower. And the variable that tracked most closely with those cellular markers wasn't any single food. It was whether the person had a reason to get up in the morning that someone else depended on. The researchers almost didn't include it. It seemed too simple, too soft, too difficult to quantify in a clinical framework. They included it anyway, and it turned out to explain more of the variance in longevity than any individual dietary factor. You can eat every bean on the planet. If you have no reason to wake up tomorrow, the biology doesn't hold. Plan de vida is the practice that closes the system. Here's the complete picture. Daily black beans, soaked, simmered, a cup a day, paired with a whole grain and a vitamin C-rich fruit at the same meal. And a plan de vida, not a vague sense of happiness, but a specific daily reason that someone else depends on you. A garden you tend, a grandchild you feed, a skill you teach, a community you show up for. In the first week, you'll notice your energy stabilizing after meals. The afternoon crash softens. Digestion shifts. These are subtle, but they're real. It's the gut bacteria adjusting to the increased resistant starch. After 30 days, appetite normalizes. Cravings for sugar between meals fade. The glucose buffering becomes consistent enough that you stop noticing it, which is the point. At 90 days, get a blood panel. Ask for HbA1c, fasting glucose, and fasting insulin so you can calculate your home IR score. That's your insulin resistance number. Measure where you started. See where you are. Despina in Nicoya eats her beans with olive oil. Giovanni in Sardinia has his minestrone at noon. Pachito in Nicoya has his frijoles negros before the sun clears the hills. They never met. They live thousands of miles apart. They eat the same way. And their blood tells the same story. We look at Pachito on his horse at 104, and most of us feel two things: admiration and distance, like it belongs to a different world. But the study followed 16,000 people for 20 years. The Nicoyans who moved to San Jose and adopted a modern diet lost the advantage within a generation. The ones who stayed, who kept the beans, who kept the tortillas, who kept the plan de vida, who kept being necessary, they kept the biology. This is not destiny. This is practice. Tonight, open your pantry. Find a bag of dry black beans. If you don't have one, they cost $1.50. Rinse 1 cup. Cover it with water. Let it soak overnight. Tomorrow, simmer it with garlic, half an onion, and a bay leaf. Eat it with rice. That's day 1. If you want more systems from all 5 blue zones, subscribe. Every week we go this deep. No supplements to sell. No products to push. Just the actual systems these populations have been using for generations. Drop a comment. What did you eat for breakfast this morning? And when was the last time a legume showed up on your plate? I read every single comment, and your answer might shape the next video.